So welcome everybody. I guess it's time to stop goofing off and get down to business. So for those of you who are brand new to the challenge, you are watching me over the internet on live stream, and there is a little bit of a delay. So depending on where you are and how fast your link is, I could be anywhere from 30 seconds to 2 minutes behind. This becomes important only at the end of the broadcast. If you type in a question at the very end and you don't get a response from Karen, who's monitoring downstairs, or someone else, it's because the show is actually over. So if you do type in a question at the very end and you don't get a response, please feel free to email the question to us, customerservice@thescraprack.com, or post it on our Facebook page, and one of the lovely ladies in our group, or Karen, or myself, or Deanna, or maybe even Sue, will answer that question for you. If you are new and you're asking a question, the chat group kind of goes on the whole time. Type the word question in bold caps, and then Karen will kind of keeps an eye out for that all caps word question, so she knows that there's something more than just chatting going on there. Progress posts, if you're new, at the end of each week when you've completed or worked through your challenge, if you post a progress post either on our Facebook page or you email it to us, you get entered in a drawing to win a $25 gift certificate. Woo! So you don't have to complete the challenge, you just have to show progress, that you're on board and that you're getting something done, and then email that in. Tell us what you've done. I also have a few announcements from Karen. The first thing is Karen wants me to give all y'all a coupon for paper storage this week. And she said, Tiffany, go big or stay home. So this week's coupon code is GOC, paper, the number 14. It's only for people who watch the challenge. And you will save 50%, yeah, 50% on any of the items listed on our Organize Your Paper page. And when you get the email after today's class, it'll have a link to that, but you can find it on our website as well. And we'll include the coupon code at that point too, right? So there's a variety of items on there. Some of them you're going to see during class today, but if you need paper storage, you can save 50%. And then Sue reminded me that on our website right now, anytime you spend over $100, you get free shipping. So there's kind of a double bonus going on there for those of you who need a lot of stuff. I also want to give a shout out to Dewana Curry Roll, who's been with us for a long time. She's a great supporter of our brand and our products, and we love having her on board with us. And she has a great Cricut group called the Cricut Explore Design Space File Sharing. Whoa. Cricut Explore Design Space File Sharing. We'll send that out in the email today too. But if you're a Cricut person, you might want to check out her group. It might be something that you enjoy being part of. Lastly, Karen had quite a few questions about rewarding yourself this week. The reward is for the homework assignment, right? When you complete the homework assignment, you get the reward. So today we're going to talk about paper, and I know some of you have thousands, maybe tens of thousands of sheets of paper, and the challenge this week is not to organize all the paper, but to organize a certain amount of the paper that you've got. So once you can check off all the things in the challenge assignment for the week, then you get your reward. So even if you only get half of them done this week and you finish up the next couple and then 2 more, so it takes you 3 weeks, once you've checked off everything in that list of things to do, you get your reward. Don't miss out on it. Don't punish yourself. Reward yourself. Woo! Finish up. Get it done. Okay, so this week's winner, Progress Post winner, Jessie, I think it's Dussart, D-U-S-S-A-R-T. She's in Henderson, Colorado. We met her at the show this weekend. That had nothing to do with this winner being picked, because I don't pick the winner, so I don't even know. Karen does the drawing for the winners. But she said that she made her board, and I'm going to read the whole thing. I usually don't do that, but she has something really important to say here. Board done. I actually used items I would have otherwise purged, so that made me happy. The rub-on in the lower left corner was 8 years old and it didn't work, and is serving as my reminder why we need to purge, not only to keep down the quantity of items, but to maintain the quality of our work. And that's really important, especially things like rub-ons have a tendency to dry out or crack or get stuck on the peel off. So as you're going through your things, purging those things out that you don't want to sort, store, organize because they're not going to work anyway is really important. So great post by Jessie, and Karen will hook up with you and get you your $25 gift certificate. Jessie, thanks for being part of the Get Organized Challenge. All right, I wanted to share one other Facebook post, and this is an old post, and it's long, but I have just a little bit of it highlighted. And it just kind of is a reminder of the resolution to get organized. So Janice Allegri says, my hobby room will be for sewing, knitting, and scrapbooking. I will no longer need to keep using the dining room table for my hobbies, nor will I have to keep the door closed because of being embarrassed of what's on the other side. So give yourself some motivation, some inspiration, make some statements, and forge ahead with getting organized, and you will love crafting again, I promise. Okay, so our goals for this challenge are to have an understanding of how to categorize your paper stash, a mental understanding, how to do the physical task of sorting, know what to do with kits, stacks, and other sort of weird scraps, and the understanding of the importance of your organized only space. And we talked a little bit about that last week, so hopefully you guys have put some thought into creating that as well. We're going to start, and I'm going to go ahead and have Sue kind of pan over. We have this little organized only space that I just wanted to show you how small of a space you need, right? This is a very relatively small little shelf. It could go in a corner. It could go, on the back wall of your dining room. It could probably fit in a closet, but you're going to be able to really organize a lot of things in there. Some of you have been following along with the Go 10, Get Organized in 10 Minutes a Day, which is a series of videos. And we've used this little corner as we work through that, so you're familiar with it. But it really does allow you to transfer messy stuff into neatly organized stuff and put it in that nice organized space so you can get to it quickly and easily. All right, so let's talk about the mental process, and I just clicked too far through my screen here, so let me see if I can figure out how to go back. I might have to put my glasses on. No. Sorry. Oh, there we go. So the mental part, really important, right? If you've taken any of my classes, you know your head is kind of the biggest obstacle you have to get over to get and stay organized. So with paper, there are only 3 sections that we're going to use in the 4-section system. We're going to use themes and sentiments, the calendar year, and the rainbow. That first section, alphanumeric, there's not a lot of paper that fits that criteria. Generally, if you have paper that has alphabets and numbers on it, it fits into some other theme like school or, I don't know, maybe ancestry or family heritage or something like that. So it's not very common to have things in that first category. Themes and sentiments and the calendar year are pretty easy for us to get our heads around, but the rainbow presents a big challenge. And if you've been on board with us before, we have this little mantra where we say, embrace the rainbow. People get intimidated by the rainbow and putting things together by color, but it really is going to save you when it comes to sorting, storing, organizing, and most importantly, finding what you need. We're also going to talk a little bit about multicolored paper, which is a challenge for people. So a general rule of thumb for organizing your colored paper is to start with the colored papers first. So the front of your rainbow section is going to be your solid colors. Most of us go light to dark. And then you can follow behind that with your prints patterns. So you might have dots, stripes, distressed, florals that fit in that color category, but you can have solids, and then those prints are following next. And we'll talk more about that as we go on. It is helpful sometimes to sort your prints by those groups, right? Some people put all their prints, if the main color in that print is blue, they just put all the blue prints together. But sorting that stripes, dots, distressed is helpful to some of us who have a little bit of OCD. One of the biggest challenges is multicolored paper. I think I have a fabulous sheet of it here. Most of the time when you have a printed paper, there's going to be one dominant color, one reason you bought that, one color that you like the best. There's going to be a way to kind of figure out which color group that's most likely to go into, right? Sometimes you end up with paper that looks like this, though, that has absolutely no sort of dominant color or nothing that draws you into it. You didn't buy it for any particular reason, which hopefully after this class, you're going to be a little bit better about buying what buying with intention, knowing what you're going to use that for or why you're going to use it before you buy it. And the reason, I'll talk for just a minute about shopping with intention here. The reason that's important is because when you go into Michael's or your local scrapbook store, excuse me, and you buy something willy-nilly like this, right? I bought this willy-nilly. I have no idea what I was thinking when I bought this. This is so outside of my box for how I craft. I don't even know why I have it. It makes an excellent example for rainbow, I guess. If when you buy something like this, if you stop and ask yourself, where am I going to store that? Then a bunch of things happen. One, you've given your brain a moment to stop and think about it. So you're like, well, that's really pretty right now, but I'm thinking, where am I going to store that? And I don't even think I'll ever use that, right? So your brain, once you pause and ponder, your brain is going to give you all these, is going to do a lot of work for you and guide you through. So let's say you do decide that you want this paper, and then your brain is going to say, well, it doesn't really fit anywhere. You're going to have to start a section in your rainbow section that's just called mixed or rainbow or something else, which is totally fine, right? When we talk about the rainbow, you've got your black and white, your tan and brown, and then your red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. If you have a lot of paper like this or you're prone to this, you can go ahead and just add something at the very end called mixed or rainbow, and then you can group them by kind of style or design. So don't be afraid to throw in a category that in your head you're going to be able to look for and find. But ask yourself before you buy it where you're going to store it, and your brain will kick into gear and help you out. The other thing is, when you get home with that paper, you already know where to put it, right? So anytime you buy something, if you ask that question right up front, when you get home, it's going to get put away in your 4-section system where it belongs because you've already thought about it, as opposed to that bag of things that you just purchased stuffed under your desk or in the closet because you have no idea where they're going to go. So take a minute before you buy, shop with intention, ask yourself where you're going to store it, and it's going to make it easier all the way along. Okay. What are the exceptions? Remember that one of the biggest goals is for you to be able to find things quickly and easily. And this is true with colored printed pattern paper as well. So you want to keep things together that you would use together. So if you bought pink floral paper, thinking specifically that that was going to go with your daughter's ballet pages, you want to keep things together that you use together. So take the pink floral paper, and instead of putting it in the pink flower section, put it where you intend to use it, in the ballet section. And that way, when you work those ballet pages, obviously it's going to already be there. You're going to remember that you bought it for that, and you're going to use it. When you're done with the ballet pages, if you have extra paper left over, at that point, you can move it into that pink floral section, right? But remember, just because it's a particular thing, pink floral, if you had an intention when you bought it, you want to keep things together, you're going to use together. So that's the exception to the rules about filing your paper. Here's something else that you need to accept, like right now, like take a deep breath and convince yourself or say to yourself, nothing bad will happen if I file a few sheets of paper wrong, right? So sometimes we get bogged down in the sorting process because we're overthinking where things belong. I would venture to guess that if I could see all of you out there right now and I said, if you have enough craft paper that you could craft a little bit every day for the rest of your life without running out of paper, raise your hand. I would imagine the majority of you out there would be raising your hand, right? Because paper is something that we accumulate a ton of, which means if you file some of it in the wrong place, it's not going to matter, because when you go to the place, ballet, and you're looking, there's going to be so many choices there that you're going to be able to move forward anyway. If you come across something that was misfiled later, you can always move it into a different section, right? So nothing bad is going to happen if you sort, store, or organize some of your paper in the wrong place. It might inspire you, actually, if you find something that you weren't expecting. Okay, kits and stacks. What do you do with those things, right? So if there's some of you who get Storytellers Club or those types of things in the mail, they usually are coming in a pizza box. They have all kinds of things with them, including paper. I am not an advocate of taking things apart and resorting them or restoring them, right? What I'm an advocate of is figuring out a way to remind yourself that you've got that particular kit or whatever it is. So as an example, let's say I don't get any kit, so you have to work with my little example here. So as an example, you have gotten these kits from whatever club you belong to. All you need to do is give each box a number and then write the name of what that kit is on the front of the box. And in each kit, there's usually a little flyer that shows the pictures of what's in there. So let's say this summer fun kit would have a picture of the stamps, the embellishments, the paper, the ribbon, whatever else comes in that kit. So I would take that flyer and I would write 101 on the flyer, and I would put that piece of paper, that flyer, into my summer section. So as I'm flipping through, working on summer pages, that flyer pops up and it directs me right to this box number 101. So I know I can go to the closet and pull out box number 101. Now, after I've used a bunch of what's in that box, there might just be a few pieces left. At that point, I'll put those few pieces into my scrap rack. But try not to constantly be packaging or rearranging things that come in big kits. Try to figure out a way to integrate the information in with the rest of your supplies so it becomes fast and easy. What about your stacks, ladies, right? So I can probably guess why, let's say, 70% of you have paper pads, paper stacks, right? I'm going to guess, just a guess, that most of the paper stacks that you have are because you had a 40 off coupon at Michael's. What you wanted to buy at Michael's was already on sale, so you couldn't use the 40 off coupon. Paper stacks are $20, which means they're only $12 when you use your coupon. That's a great buy. And hey, we always need more paper, right? So that's how you ended up with that stack. I'm going to guess. If I'm wrong, post it up there. But I guess if I'm right, if that's why you have a paper stack or 2 or 3 or 7, you should put a comment up that says, let me know if I'm totally off base. But that's going to be my guess because well, maybe I'm projecting because that's why I have paper stacks, right? So actually I don't have any more because I didn't use them. I spent $12 on something that I didn't use. So now what do I do with my 40 off coupon when I can't buy what I'm in there for? I use it on candy. I buy myself a bag of M&Ms as a reward for not spending $12 on something I'm not going to use. So think about that, right? If you buy a paper stack with no intention, you're going to have to sort, store, organize it, and you're probably not even going to use it because you forget that it's there. I'm going to show you a way to avoid forgetting that it's there too as we go through paper organization 101 here. So if I don't pop up about how to store your stacks with the rest of your paper, Sue, remind me. Yeah, Sue's like, yes, please tell me because I've got those. I've got those. The other thing that's really efficient, that's helpful about paper stacks is if you just write on the back of it when you bought it, maybe how much it cost. And then if it's sitting on your shelf month after month or year after year and you've never taken any paper out of it, you're at least providing yourself with some real empirical evidence about whether or not you actually use that. If you have a paper stack that you paid even $12 for and you've only used 2 sheets of paper out of it, that's $6 a sheet, right? You probably could have bought something else that you would have liked more or used more if you hadn't been shopping with your 40 off coupon, right? So those should probably be illegal, right? Because they just motivate us to shop for buy stuff because we need that great deal. All right, so let's talk about the physical process of sorting paper. Now, there's a couple of ways to do it. We made sorting templates, or you made sorting templates last week, right? So if you're not using some kind of vertical paper storage, you're going to spread those templates out. Works well on a dining room table or around counters in a kitchen, something that's going to give you some space to really work with. The thing with paper is it's so big and it does take up so much space that if you can figure out a way to at least sort and organize vertically, it's going to be really, really, it's going to be faster, it's going to be easier, it's going to take up less space, you're going to get more done, and if you get interrupted in the process of organizing that paper, then you are going to be able to put it away quickly and easily. So, which brings me to another point. I'm going to say this every class. I probably said it in the first class too. You want to work in small batches, right? Because what happens in your head when you don't complete a task is negative, right? If you start sorting all of your things, run out of time, have to scoop them up in a box and throw them in the closet because you have to put dinner on the table, the next time you look at that box in the closet, your brain says, you need to come up with another way to do this because obviously that didn't work. Your brain doesn't say, oh, you forgot you were having company over for dinner and you got halfway through that process, but it was really going well. That's not how it works. On the other hand, if you sort in small batches and work from start to finish through just a small project, your brain goes, oh my gosh, this is so great. Look what we got done. Woo! And you get a big shot of dopamine and your endorphins start going off and it's all good stuff. So work in small batches, work from start to finish. Even if you do 4 or 5 small projects in an hour, it's better than not completing one project in 2. So, all right, there we go. There's my lecture. There's my psychology lecture for the day. So let's talk about sorting that paper. So using vertical storage means that you can sort, in this case, so this is our paper handler, for those of you who haven't seen it. This is a plastic box with a pop-up handle, so whether you're pulling something off your shelf or taking it to a crop class or event, it becomes really easy to transfer that paper around. Now, inside the paper handler here, I have one set of our tabbed paper storage box dividers, and over the tabs, I've just stuck little sticky notes, right? I don't want to label my tabs until I've done my sorting. So working with the dividers, that gives me 10 categories in the box that I'm sorting with. If you don't have our dividers or you don't want to purchase dividers with your 50% off coupon this week, look at me, I'm just like Michael's. Get that 50% off coupon in there. I made these dividers out of chipboards, right? And I just stuck on the tabs from the office supply store. They're kind of wonky. I think I have them kind of backwards here. But you can make your own dividers as well. So these are tabs from the office supply store, and they're just categorized out the same way. And I could put those in my paper storage box and use them to sort as dividers as well. So there's a couple of different ways to go about doing it. But vertical is going to make your life so much easier. So now I can take my paper storage box. I guess I should kind of stand up, and then so hopefully you guys can kind of see. So I just did kind of a cheater variety here. So I have A, B, C, T, and then summer, fall, winter, and then some colors, just kind of to go through and show you sort of the basic sorting thing. And then I pulled a bunch of my own things out. So they're kind of already in order, but it will give you the right idea. So this first, as I'm digging through my stack here, this is all Ancestry design, which I absolutely love. So I'm just going to take those papers, I'm going to pop them right behind the A tab. I'm not going to worry right now. I'm going to put everything for A behind A to get started, and then I'll kind of resort it as I go along, unless I know that I have a major category for beach or travel or something like that. In that case, I might take a sticky note and put that particular category on there. I'm a travel junkie, so when I was originally sorting, I would definitely have that. So this is Ancestry. This is a small 8x8 tablet, but it doesn't matter. I'm going to put it right in there in the front. Now as I'm digging through, I've got all this beach paper. I'm going to take that beach paper and drop it under B for beach. And I'm on to camping. It's convenient that my pile's all in alphabetical order, isn't it? But you can be doing this at your desk or chair or in front of TV, and you can see it's just easy to flow into that box as you go through the pile. This is all travel. Pop that into my T tab. Oh, and now I've got all my fall things coming up. So I've got October. Or do I have it under fall? What's my tab? It's fall. Now, one of the questions that we kind of talked about last week, I'm just going to remind you all about it again now, is keeping things together you use together. So sometimes we're tempted to get rid of the calendar year section and just use themes and sentiments A to Z and put Thanksgiving under T and Halloween under H and fall under F. But remember, your goal is when you go to work on a fall page, the things for Thanksgiving layout and back to school and fall harvest festival and general fall seasonal things, all of those things are going to work together. So you want to keep them together so you can use as much of your stash as you can see and get your hands on. The other thing about it is if you're going to an event, and we're going to talk in session 8 about going to a crop or class, if you only have to pull one section fall, out of your 4-section system and take it with you to work on those fall harvest cards or maybe your Halloween pages or whatever. It's a lot easier than trying to remember to grab a fall section, a Halloween section, you know, a Thanksgiving section, and take those out the door with you. So remember, ultimately, keep things together that you would use together. So here's some more fall goodies. My dividers are wonky in here, so they're a little challenging. And now I'm on to Christmas, so December or winter, depending on how you've categorized your calendar year, winter, spring, summer, fall, or month to month. And now I can move on to those colors. So that's the same thing. I'm just going to take my colored paper, and these are kind of already sorted, right? So I'll just show you. I pulled them out of my box. So you can see I just have the tabs at the top, and this is going to drop into my box. So I'm going to sort those colors right in there, and as I go through the piles, things are going to be mixed up, but I'm just going to be able to drop them right in there. After I've done this initial sort, then I can go in and use something like, so this is a paper pocket. So if you have specialty papers, so these beach papers, let's see if I can pull them out there. These beach papers are die cut at the top, right? So one's a sandcastle, and this one has die cut ocean waves. So these are kind of delicate, and you want to protect them. So I just use our paper pockets for special things or whole collections. And then I've got that, see, I'm getting my castle hung up on my paper pocket already. So I'm just going to put those right back in there. So those tops and edges are protected. And I've got that whole set of papers together in one pocket so that it's all in one place if I want to use that particular design. So be careful with my little waves. And then I'm just going to pop the little tab over the top. But this has a tab on the side, so if you're using your paper boxes this way, that tab's going to stick out the side there. Or you can put it this way, and the tab's going to stick out the top there. So specialty papers or special collections can go into one of our paper pockets. Now, if you buy something, a collection of things that you want to keep together, see, this is all the Mexico travel stuff I've got. Now I can put all of that into the collection keeper and put it in the travel section. So all those, you know, 12 by 12 stickers and papers and all those things are together in one place as well. So you'll see the collection keeper and the paper pocket on the website, on the paper page, if you're looking for paper storage. But it's super simple, right? So now I've got everything in there. Here's some more small, I've got a lot of ancestry stuff, right? Can you tell I really like that? But it's small. So I'm going to actually, when I put this on the shelf, I'm actually going to put it on its side like this so that I can pull the paper in and out. So I'm going to go to my ancestry tab, and I'm just going to put my smaller books of paper in the very front, right? There's no need to sort paper into 3 different or 4 different sizes. So you've got 8.5 by 11, 12 by 12, 8 by 8, 6 by 6, sometimes 4 by 6 tablets. There's no reason to do that. Keep things together that you would use together, keep them by theme, and you can just put your smaller things in the front of the box, and then you're actually going to see them and you're going to use them. Which takes me back to, not good to knock your paper boxes over. Which takes me back to paper stacks. So if I've got my paper boxes like this on my shelf, right? And so if I'm using a cube system especially, I've got my paper storage boxes in there. If I have a stack of paper, so we'll pretend my dividers here are a paper stack. And this is my themes box, and then this is going to lead into rainbow or whatever. Let's say this is themes M through Z, right? We probably have multiple boxes of paper. And this is a paper stack of sports themed papers. I'm going to just take one of these little tabs that I used right here to create my divider. It's just a little stick-on tab from the office supply store. You could do it with a sticky note. And I'm going to label the edge of that paper stack, and I'm just going to slide it in between my boxes so it sticks out with everything else. So now when I'm looking for sports paper in my theme box, that little tab is going to stick out the end, and I'm going to be like, oh, I have that paper stack. I should actually use that, right? It's going to show up for you. What most people do is take their paper stacks and put them into their into a stack in the closet, and you never see them again. So I don't want, people always ask me, should I take my paper stacks apart and separate them all out? No. Remember, you want to make it as easy as possible to remember that you have that. You want to keep things together you would use together. So even though that sports tablet of paper might not be with all the rest of the S's in your themes area, it's close enough that you're going to see it with that tab sticking off the end, and then you're actually going to use it. So sometimes, most of the time, those tablets are defined things, all about boys, sports. Can you tell I have boys? These are the things I think about. Calendar year, like all the holidays or whatever. So just get it as close as you can. If it's a color, like based on colors, put it in that rainbow section. But get it as close as you can so you can see it and you can actually use it. Don't stack them up somewhere, because if you have 4 or 5 of them, you're never going to look at the one that's on the bottom. It's just a pain in the neck. If it's easy, you're going to do it. And if it's not easy, it's just not getting done. That's how it is. So, all right. So, you can also do the same thing, as I mentioned, sorting out on your templates and then picking it up and putting it in your paper storage system. I get asked regularly about what's the best tool for paper storage. A lot of people have the racks that they've purchased from a store or something. The racks, the flat racks, they work okay for rainbow, because you have to remember those flat racks were designed that you only needed to see the top thing, because everything else below it was the same. So if you're putting paper on a flat rack and all the pages underneath are different, then you're constantly pulling it out of that rack and banging up the edges and corners to get to what's at the bottom. So if you have flat racks and you want to keep using them, that's a great place for rainbow in those racks. Or put them into something like the paper pockets, like these, by theme in the rack. And then your edges and corners are protected, and you can pull out all your beach paper, all your baby paper, all your birthday paper that way as well. You just want to get those, edges and corners and keep them from getting beaten up. If you can go with vertical storage, it takes up the least space. It's the most efficient for actually sorting. It's the easiest way to kind of thumb through and see all the different options that you've got. So if you're looking for new paper storage, there's a bunch of it out there. We make a cardboard version, we make the plastic version, but there's all kinds of them out there. But vertical, less space, and more efficient, I have to say. Okay, so next question that I get regularly is, I obviously have a sizable scrap rack over here. I will confess, not a paper junkie. The vast majority of my paper is right in here by theme. My printed and pattern papers are right in here in the rainbow section, those prints and patterns. So I have like dots and plaids. You can kind of, I don't know if you can see. Can you see, Sue? I have dots and plaids in my little yellow section there. So I'm not a paper junkie. I try, the most stuff I can keep in here, the better off I'm going to be, because I'm going to see all of it. Now, with that said though, if you are a paper junkie, and most crafters are, organizing your paper storage boxes below or next to or whatever the rest of your supplies in the 4-section system is the perfect solution. So if I was working on Christmas, I could go to my Christmas section here. In my scrap rack, I have all my stuff, and then I could just pull out my Christmas paper storage box and put it on my desk, and now I've got all the things I might use for Christmas right here in easy reach. And when I'm done with Christmas, I'm going to take my paper storage box and put it right back on my shelf. Everything's going to be hunky-dory and easy. So try to keep that in mind. Make it as efficient as you can to get to pull it out, to bring it with you, or to go to a crop or an event. If you're working on Christmas and you've got your paper storage box, you're just going to pop those handles up, take your Christmas section, and you're out the door. It's going to make it a lot easier than trying to round up paper from all over your room or space. Okay, let's talk about scraps. When I first started teaching this class, my suggestion to people was pick your minimum scrap size, right? If you're a card maker, you might keep smaller scraps than if you're just a scrapbooker, mixed media artist, or whatever you like to do. But pick a scrap size that's useful for you. And then anything that's left over at the end of your project that doesn't meet that minimum scrap size, goes in the garbage, the recycle bin, the purge box, the donation box, whatever it is. That was my philosophy for people. And then over the years, I've traveled around and I've met lots of people, and I've realized, as I asked you earlier in class, most people have so much paper that if they got to craft a little bit every day, they still wouldn't use up all their paper. So now what I want to do is challenge you with your scraps and tell you, don't keep anything, if you can do it, if you can stomach getting rid of anything that's not at least 6 by 12, a half a sheet of paper, do it. You have tons of paper you're not using and you're not looking at because you're spending 10 or 15 minutes digging through the dreaded scrap box in the hopes of finding something that you want to use. So if you can get rid of anything that's not a half a sheet of paper at the end of your project, you're going to be so much happier and you're going to be weeding through all that junk. I met a lady, I'm going to tell, I don't know her name. Shoot, I wish she was in class this weekend. She might be on with us, but she was in the Denver class this weekend, and she told me that she had bought 2 at a garage sale or online or whatever, 2 of those accordion files full of sorted, organized scraps of paper, and she had purchased them like 2 years ago. She hadn't opened them since she bought them, right? So don't get sucked into your scraps. There's a little bit of us saying, oh, I don't want to be wasteful, but think about the fact that you're wasting all of those big, beautiful sheets of paper that you're not using because you're worried about digging through your scrap bin, which effectively you have used some of that paper. So try to use what you've got, love it or lose it. That's my philosophy. We have so much stuff, but if you don't love your products, boom, you should lose them. And like our post today, like our winner, right? When you hang on to stuff, the edges get faded or torn or beat up. Scrapbooking is fashion forward, so the colors change with the colors in fashion. They're not going to be useful anymore. The designs change. I mean, come on, ladies. For those of you who've been scrapping like me for a lot of years, when we look back at what we used to have, it is the new designs and the new styles are so much more sophisticated. So don't get sucked in by keeping your scraps. If you can't bring yourself to the 6 by 12 dimension, then start with 6 by 6. Anything that's not 6 by 6 or larger, I'm going to put in my purge box or my donation box. You don't want to be digging through scraps when you could be using your beautiful papers. Okay, storing your scraps though, how do you do that? Couple of ways. If you're storing scrap, if you're using something like this, a collection keeper, right? You could fill your front pockets 6 by 12, 6 by 6. You'd have to leave this one empty if you're using my new philosophy. But you could put them in a paper pocket. You could also just put them in a file folder, right? So if your box is on its side like this, you slip your file folder in here for your scraps, and then you can pull that file folder out. But you want to keep your scraps together with everything else. For me, I'm going to have my scraps right in my scrap rack. So as I'm flipping through, we'll go back to yellow because I know I saw a scrap in there. I've got my 6 by 6 square right here, right in the very front. Actually, I have a couple of them, it looks like, right? So there they are. There's my 6 by 6 squares. But I'm going to see them and I'm going to use them, right? They're right at my fingertips. So pop those back in there. They pop up for me. So if you're using a scrap rack or something similar, put your scraps right in there. The other thing is, I know there's some of you out there thinking, oh, I can't do that because sometimes I have really special paper and there's not that much left. Well, obviously, if you buy, like I have this cork paper that I've only cut a circle out of and a square out of, so it's kind of a weird shape, but it's a unique paper. I'm going to keep that all the way down to a 2 by 2 square of it because it's just something unique. I'm talking about things that we have plenty of. Now, themes and sentiments papers, scraps from those, they're going to go right back in with your themes and sentiments. Don't store your scraps somewhere else. You can put them in a file folder in your themes and sentiments section of a paper storage box, or you can put them right in with themes and sentiments, same with calendar year, of course, right? So Halloween scraps are going to go in Halloween or fall, Christmas and Christmas. But keep them accessible, keep them together with everything else. Keep things together you use together. Combine and conquer, that's our mantra here. So, Deanna Regal Dawson, I don't know if she's on board with us for this particular challenge, but she's been with us for quite a while. And several challenges back, she made this suggestion that I want to share with you as you're starting to sort your paper and your scraps. She says, I wanted to share a thought for the upcoming challenge on paper and purging scraps. One of the things I wish I had done in the first series was to save some scraps to use during the stamps, punches, and die cuts challenge. So as you are purging your paper, maybe have a small box or bin set aside for your scrap paper that you are going to be able to use when we do that next challenge, stamps, punches, and die cuts. So as you're sorting scraps, if you want to put them all in a box or a bin or something that's all together that you're going to actually use them for that next challenge, that's a perfect way to feel like you're getting the value out of those scraps. And then after we do those next challenges, you can toss out anything that's left. So thank you, Diana, if you're on board with us today, for that nice reminder. Okay, so 3 ways to store your paper. Paper storage boxes with file folders for your scraps, your scrap rack with obviously your scraps in it, or a combination of the two. So remember, if you have all of your supplies in a scrap rack or something similar, and you're using paper storage boxes, you just want to make sure you're using the same themes and categories and keeping them in that same order so you can bring things together. Look at how much I love Karen. I know you guys love Karen too, but she knows about me and my glasses. So when she brings me things, it's like 57-point font so that I don't have to put them on. So these are the questions that have popped up thus far. Libby says, I tried light to dark, but it gets so mixed up when I try to put sheets back. Would super singles help to keep the shades together? It would. So what she's talking about is putting your paper in a supersized single, which is the same thing as a paper pocket, right? So this, it just has a little tab on it because it goes in your scrap rack. And it's just a 12 by 12 pocket. It would, but you also have to remember it's going to be cumbersome, right? Because in order to put your paper into that super single, you have to pull it all the way out of the box, or, you know, open the lid and put it in and then put it all the way back in the box. I know that doesn't sound like that much, but the easier it is to do something, to put it away, to take it out, the more likely it is that you're going to use it. So I don't think it matters. When you set up your rainbows light to dark, it's all pretty initially, and then when you're putting something back, a piece of paper that's 3 or 4 shades lighter, and it gets in kind of the wrong place, it's going to stand out anyway. And when you thumb through your paper, let's say this was all rainbow, when you thumb through your paper to see what you've got, that light color is going to pop back out for you anyway. So try not to get too hung up in the perfection of it. There is even some advantage, so thumbing through and something else popping up, as I kind of mentioned earlier, you might get inspired or think about something that you hadn't thought about before. But in general, especially with the rainbow, I would say it's more important that you're crafting and that you can see it and get to it than it is to keep it in order. So I'd love to sell everybody hundreds of our supersized single page, and it does work. And if you have that, you know, there are those of us on the OCD scale, right? Some not at all, and some of us extreme over here. And it is helpful to us to feel like those separations are there. And in that case, the supersized single is a perfect solution for being able to keep those things sorted by color. You can put a little stick-on tab on the side of it. Actually, 3M makes a new kind of Post-it note that's kind of plasticky. Super durable. They work great. I used to have some by my desk, but I think they're in this design studio next door. But they work great, and then you can just stick them onto your super singles in your paper storage boxes, so it makes it easy to pull them in and out. Also, I will write a little note about what tabs, 3M tabs. And I'll either put a picture up or just better description of what they are. So if you are further down this side of the OCD, you could look, Sue. I think they're in the silver cart, in the top section of the silver cart. I might be out of them. They're like my favorite thing. I love them because they're so durable, right? So when you use paper sticky notes like these on stuff, they start to get kind of bent up. But these are like a thicker plastic, and they don't bend up. They flop, you know, you can flop them back and forth and they still don't bend. They're really cool. So, oh yeah, ta-da! So this is what they look like. They come in these little, there was red ones too, but I think I'm out of red. There might not be any on here. This might be like the, oh no, there we go, there's one. So they're super sticky on this side, but you can see how they don't, I don't know what they're called though, because they're out of the package, but I will look them up. But they're made by 3M, and they're super durable because they're plastic instead of paper, so they work great for adding those kind of labels to things. Jean Smith asks, what if you have some paper separated by stores, like where you bought it? Do you change it? You know what? I'm going to tell you right now, Jean, nobody in 11 years of teaching this class has asked me that question. And I would say, yes, change it. I would put it into the 4-section system. You might use a sticky note or a paper pocket if where you bought it is important. With stores like Michael's and big stores, Hobby Lobby, they don't change out their products as quickly as a small like scrapbooking store or your local art store might change out products. So you could go back and buy it, which is, I'm guessing, why you would keep it by store. So if you needed more, you could go back to the store and buy more. And I just want to take a little side note here. When we talk about memorabilia, journaling notes, and creating a holding album, we're going to talk about how much paper you should buy and when you should buy it, and that'll probably help that whole sort of idea, getting your brain around how many sheets you should buy of a particular thing and how to plan effectively for that. But I can't talk about that because that's not what today's class is about, so you'll have to come back and join us for the next class. But I would definitely, unless there's some particular reason that you have it separated by store, I would put a little note with it of what store it was and then put it in the right section. Here's what happens. Let's say you bought beautiful camping paper at Michael's, and so you have a paper box full of paper from Michael's, and then you're working on your camping pages, so you go to your camping section and you completely forget. You're relying on your brain. I don't know how old you are, Jean, but if you're over 40, you know, as well as the rest of us who are over 40, that kind of information has left the building. We can't remember that stuff, right? So you're relying on your brain. Whereas if you take that camping paper, maybe you put it in a supersized single, tag it, this came from Michael's, and put it in camping, then it's going to pop up for you and you're going to see it and you're actually going to use it. So try to keep those things together. Cindy says, my question is, if you categorize in the box, then what goes into the scrap rack? So if I'm using my boxes to sort, but I'm going to put my paper in my scrap rack, when I pull it out of the boxes, so let's see, I have this Ancestry paper right here. It's all sorted, all my Ancestry paper sorted. Now I'm going to be able to pop it into the Ancestry section or put it into a supersized single and put it into the Ancestry section in my scrap rack. Because I'm not a paper junkie, that's probably what I'm going to, no, not probably, that is what I'm going to do. I'll be honest with you, the paper that I have out here is out of my scrap rack because every quarter I used to have to pull it out of my scrap rack to teach this class. But for me, if I'm working on Ancestry, it's easier to just go back here and see everything I've got for Ancestry. I'm not a paper junkie, right? You can look on my shelf, all that's down there is a couple boxes of rainbow paper. If you are a paper junkie, then you're just going to leave it in the box and put the box on your shelf. You might have to spread it out over a few boxes. If you're a paper junkie, you're going to have to. If you only have this much paper, you can easily put it in your scrap rack. So as you sort, like I'm not going to ask you to sort all of your paper this week, but as you sort, then you're going to start with one box, then 2 boxes, then 3 boxes, and just spread out. So everything might start in box 1 for the first part of the challenge, and then you're going to separate into 2, and then segment out into 3 or 4 or 5 or however many boxes you need if you are more of a paper junkie. If you're not a paper junkie, you can use 1 box to sort, put it in your scrap rack, and then keep that empty box. So if you're going to a crop or class or event, this box becomes a great way to transport 12 by 12 things around. So you can just drop it into your crop tote, throw some big things in there when you're at the event, and it's easy to work with. So I would not honestly have this out of my scrap rack, but I'm not a paper junkie, and that's an important thing to remember, right? Now, like I said, if you are, you're going to sort your paper, you're going to put it under your scrap rack or next to your whatever storage tool you're using so that it is easy to pull that Ancestry paper and flip to that Ancestry section and work the 2 things together. I hope that answers your question. Mary says, is it better to put paper in the holders as opposed to in the scrap rack? Kind of goes back to how much of a paper junkie you are. If you are not a paper junkie, keep things together you use together, right? If I'm going to pull off my Christmas section, I'm going to have everything I have for Christmas, including my paper, in my Christmas section, and I'm out the door. I don't even have to think about grabbing a Christmas paper storage box, right? But if I'm a junkie for Christmas paper, I'm going to grab those two things. So it just depends on how much paper you've got. Robin says, best way to maximize space. Currently, best way to maximize space. Currently I have my cardstock sorted by company in a little case by Cropper Hopper and pattern paper sorted by theme in Cropper Hopper envelopes. I guess I'm not sure how full each of those containers is or are, but I think, or exactly which containers you've got. So I guess there's some gray area there, but as much as you can condense down into the smallest space and still have it visible and accessible is going to be the most important thing. So if you're using something on a shelf that doesn't allow you access this way, right, to pull it in and out of that box or envelope or whatever that's on the shelf, if you can get it that way, that's going to be even better. If you are using, I don't know what you're using for the rest of your supplies, maybe you're using file folders, right? So you have a file folder full of Christmas supplies or a Ziploc bag full of Christmas supplies, and you could put that paper right in with that. That would be even better. So it's more about getting those things close together, filling up space, top to bottom, left to right, and back to front. I'm not sure if I don't feel like I'm really giving you a good answer. So if you want to give me some more details, I'm happy to answer that question as well. So, all right, so that's the end of my list from Karen. So let's talk about this week's challenge, ladies. What are you going to do? You're going to create that organized only space in your craft room. We talked about it last week. You may have put some thought into it or even started working around it, but create an organized only space. Choose a storage tool for your paper. Where are you going to store it? How are you going to store it? How much paper storage boxes or shelves or whatever do you need? You're going to create templates or dividers for sorting. And then you're going to sort at least 8 inches of paper, right? So you can do it in 2-inch increments. So like if you're using one paper storage box, you can sort this much paper and then take those themes out and put them in your scrap rack or your Ziploc bags or your binders or whatever you're using. Then sort the next 2 inches and put that all away. It's preferable that you do it in 4 small groups than it is that you try to do all 8 inches at once and get sidetracked and have to set everything aside, right? So think about that. Think about what happens in your brain. You know, you want those endorphins, you want that dopamine rush every time you finish something. So if you can finish 4 things, so much better than just finishing 1, right? So 8 inches of paper. Sort your scraps. Throw away ones that don't meet that minimum requirement. And if that minimum requirement is 6 by 12, that's going to be a beautiful thing. Put your newly organized paper into your organized only area of your room or space. So in this case, I would take my paper storage box and I would slide it right onto my shelf over here. So this is the IKEA Expedite. They make something else called the Calyx now. I would just sort it in there and I'm going to start seeing how this space is coming together. If you're putting your paper into your scrap rack or Ziploc bags or whatever it is, you can pull that out as well or put those in as well. But put them all into your organized only space, whatever sort of storage tool you're using. And then finally, for things to do, well, there's 2 things left to do. 1, post on Facebook or send us an email that tells us about your progress so that you can get in on that gift certificate drawing next week. And 2, enjoy your reward, right? Get just this challenge. So this week you get your reward for creating an organized only space, simple. Choosing a storage tool, simple. Creating your dividers, super simple. Sorting 8 inches of paper, a little more challenging, but a little more time consuming, but still not difficult. Getting rid of those scraps. Organized only space, posting on Facebook. Reward time, ladies. Enjoy it, right? So, a couple of tips for success. Do things in small batches. We've already talked about that. Set your scrap minimum size before you begin. So, I want you to write down 6 by 6, 6 by 12 is my minimum scrap size. Post it on the wall in front of you. When you look at something that's only 5 by 5, I want you to go, oh, it doesn't meet my minimum. Here it is on the wall. Have a goal. Wrote it down. It's an intention that has seeds and soil. It's growing like crazy. I'm going to get rid of that 5 by 5 scrap. And and sort in natural light whenever possible, especially with color. One of the things that happens with color is that it looks different in all different kinds of light. So if you can sort where you have some natural light, that's going to be helpful, and it's going to be a little bit faster. Don't get bogged down. If it's taking you any more than a half a second to decide where that paper belongs, what category it belongs in, then that means your brain is tired of making those kinds of decisions. So take a break, go for a walk, have a glass of wine or a cup of coffee, or do something different for a while and let your brain recharge and then come back to it. Going through the paper should be really quick and really easy. All right, that's it for this week. Thanks so much for joining me. I look forward to talking to you again next week when we do challenge number 3 and we talk about all those crazy embellishments. Have a great week.